You spend the first year after leaving military intelligence trying to convince yourself you are still a human being instead of a weapon looking for permission to fire. The government calls it transitional decompression. Psychologists ask rehearsed questions inside sterile offices while pretending classified trauma can be processed through paperwork. None of them understand what happens to people trained for precision violence once the structure disappears. You wake up every morning already studying exits unconsciously. You sit with your back toward walls. You memorize license plates in parking lots without trying. Civilian life feels fake because nobody around you understands how quickly societies collapse when enough people decide rules no longer matter. Your discharge happens quietly after a failed operation in eastern Turkey. Officially, the mission never exists. Unofficially, for intelligence officers die because someone inside the embassy leaks extraction routes to a foreign security service. You survive because you break protocol and execute the asset before capture becomes possible. Your commanding officer calls your decision operationally effective but politically catastrophic. 3 months later, your clearance disappears. 8 months later, you are working night security at a shipping yard outside Norfolk under a fake name, guarding imported electronics that matter less than the coffee in your thermos. Most nights you sit inside a booth watching cargo cranes move through fog while trying not to think about the men you killed overseas whose names you never learned. Then the power cuts out across the entire port at 2:11 a.m. Backup generators fail immediately after. That should not happen. You reach for your flashlight when someone knocks once against the security booth window from outside. Not loudly. Precisely. Military rhythm. You step out carefully with your sidearm already hidden behind your leg. A black SUV waits near the loading docks with headlights off. 2 men in dark suits stand beside it. Both military posture. Both carrying concealed weapons badly enough for you to notice instantly. The rear passenger window lowers halfway. Deputy Director Elaine Mercer sits inside without looking surprised to see you armed. You recognize her immediately from classified briefings years earlier. National Security Directorate. Executive Clearance Tier. The kind of official whose signature authorizes operations presidents never acknowledge publicly. You disappeared well, she says calmly. You found me anyway. We always find people we paid to kill for us. You do not respond. Mercer slides a photograph across the seat toward the open window. A man exiting a diplomatic convoy in Geneva 6 hours earlier. Mid-50s. European Energy Minister. Public reform advocate. You want surveillance, you ask. We want resolution. That word tells you everything. No. Mercer studies you for several seconds. 3 days ago, someone leaked classified counterintelligence files to a foreign government. 17 covert assets are now compromised. 4 are already dead. That's not my problem anymore. It becomes your problem when your name appears inside the leak archive. That lands harder than you expect. Because if your operational history surfaces publicly, prison becomes the best possible outcome. Mercer sees the hesitation immediately. The individual responsible is protected diplomatically, she continues. We cannot prosecute him without destabilizing an alliance structure currently preventing open conflict in Eastern Europe. So instead you outsource murder. No, Mercer says quietly. We outsource necessity. You spend the next 48 hours trying to refuse the offer rationally. Then you accept anyway. Not because you trust them. Because people like Mercer never arrive personally unless refusal is already impossible. The operation in Geneva changes your life permanently. The target travels with private security, diplomatic immunity, and Swiss federal protection layered together carefully enough to discourage direct action. You spend 6 days studying patterns instead of rushing. Hotel staff rotation. Convoy timing. Emergency medical protocols. Human beings always create systems around themselves eventually. Systems create vulnerabilities. The minister exercises every morning at exactly 5:40 a.m. inside a private wellness facility attached to his hotel. No cameras inside due to diplomatic privacy agreements. 2 bodyguards remain outside the steam rooms because humidity interferes with communication devices. You enter disguised as maintenance staff 3 hours before sunrise. The kill itself lasts 4 seconds. Compressed air embolism delivered through a modified injector disguised as a blood pressure device. No visible trauma. Symptoms mimic catastrophic heart failure perfectly. By 6:12 a.m., emergency medical teams pronounce him dead beside a marble bench while diplomats begin panicking through encrypted phones nearby. You leave Switzerland before the autopsy finishes. $40 million appears across offshore accounts by the time your plane lands in Morocco. 3 weeks later, another assignment arrives. Then another. Then another. At first, you convince yourself the targets deserve it. Arms traffickers funding insurgencies. Intelligence brokers selling operative identities. Financial intermediaries laundering covert weapons payments through humanitarian organizations. Dangerous people protected by laws too weak or compromised to stop them officially. That justification matters early. It matters less later. Because eventually the files become politically complicated instead of morally clear. Journalists preparing exposés against intelligence directors. Senators negotiating unauthorized deals with rival governments. Corporate executives threatening to expose classified surveillance programs after disputes over defense contracts. The government stops asking whether targets are guilty. It starts asking whether they are useful alive. That distinction changes everything. You become efficient enough that agencies stop treating you like an expendable contractor and start treating you like infrastructure. Intelligence analysts build operations around your capabilities before policymakers even approve them. You receive predictive surveillance access normally restricted to counter-terror divisions. Flight manifests. Financial transfers. Intercepted communications. Facial recognition systems capable of tracking a target across 6 countries simultaneously. The amount of information terrifies you at first. Then it normalizes. You learn how easy it is to dismantle someone once you understand their routines completely. A politician's mistress. A banker's gambling debt. A diplomat's son addicted to synthetic opioids. Human beings carry vulnerabilities everywhere while convincing themselves nobody notices. You notice. That becomes your profession. 5 years pass before anyone inside the intelligence community says your name aloud near you. Most refer to you indirectly instead. The ghost asset. Executive resolution. Section Black. Entire agencies argue about whether you are even real. Mercer encourages the mythology intentionally. Fear works better when people imagine the details themselves. You move constantly after that. Safe houses in Prague, Singapore, Buenos Aires, Istanbul. Different passports. Different identities. Different languages practiced until your original voice barely feels natural anymore. Relationships become impossible because honesty creates liabilities and lies create distance. Eventually you stop trying. The dangerous part is how quickly isolation improves operational efficiency. No distractions. No attachments. No hesitation. You stop thinking about targets as people after a while. That psychological shift happens gradually enough to avoid notice. A target becomes movement patterns on surveillance footage. Financial data. Pressure points. Elimination windows. Once you reduce human beings into operational variables, killing them feels procedural instead of personal. That is how governments survive morally catastrophic systems. Through distance. Then comes Vienna. The assignment appears ordinary initially. Elias Varga. Former intelligence officer turned cybersecurity consultant. According to Mercer, Varga has been leaking classified drone strike data to investigative journalists across Europe. Potential national security disaster. You track him for 9 days through cafes, tram routes, and office meetings before something starts feeling wrong. Varga behaves cautiously, but not like a traitor expecting retaliation. More like someone already terrified of something else entirely. Then he contacts you directly. That should be impossible. You find the note taped beneath your motorcycle seat outside an underground parking garage. If they sent you, they already know too much. No signature. No fingerprints. No visible surveillance around the garage. Professionally executed. You should abort immediately and notify Mercer. Instead, curiosity overrides protocol. That decision nearly kills you. 3 nights later, an extraction team ambushes Varga before you can reach him first. Not local police. Not foreign intelligence. American operators. Your operators. You watch from a rooftop while suppressed gunfire echoes through an alley below. Varga dies beside a delivery truck before he can escape the kill zone. The team begins sanitizing the scene immediately afterward. Then one of them spots you. The firefight lasts less than a minute but changes everything. You kill 2 operators before escaping across adjacent rooftops with rounds tearing through concrete behind you. Professional pursuit patterns. Drone support. Real-time coordination. Mercer did not just authorize the hit. She authorized yours too. You disappear within hours. Burn phones. Abandon safehouses. Liquidate accounts. By morning, every intelligence database connected to your operational identities flags you as compromised. Officially rogue. Unofficially disposable. Mercer contacts you 48 hours later through an encrypted emergency channel only senior assets know exists. You interfered with an active containment operation, she says calmly. You sent a kill team after me. You witnessed classified internal actions outside your authorization. Varga wasn't leaking secrets, you say. He was running. Silence follows briefly. Then Mercer exhales slowly. He discovered financial routing systems tied to off-book stabilization programs. You mean assassinations. I mean necessary geopolitical corrections. That phrase unsettles you more than violence ever did. Because she genuinely believes it. You begin investigating independently after that. At first, only for survival. Then because the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. For nearly a decade, intelligence divisions have been using covert eliminations not defensively, but administratively. Elections manipulated through strategic deaths. Resource negotiations influenced through engineered instability. Corporate contracts protected through disappearances blamed on extremists or accidents. The people you killed were not always threats. Sometimes they were obstacles. That realization wrought something inside you permanently. You start leaking fragments anonymously to journalists and oversight investigators carefully enough to avoid exposing operational assets completely. Offshore banking trails. Redacted communications. Procurement contracts tied to unofficial operations. Governments deny everything publicly while panicking privately. Mercer responds exactly how you expect. By hunting you. The next 3 years become a shadow war stretching across multiple continents. Marrakesh. Seoul. Athens. Lima. You survive because intelligence systems are predictable once you understand how bureaucracy thinks under pressure. Surveillance expands during panic. Borders tighten after exposure events. Human beings inside command structures prioritize institutional survival before tactical efficiency almost every time. You exploit that constantly. The first team Mercer sends after you dies in Manila after following falsified travel data into a shipping district rigged with improvised explosives. The second nearly succeeds in Warsaw before you escape through sewer maintenance tunnels beneath Old Town while drones scan the streets overhead. You stop counting bodies eventually. That is the part that frightens you most. Not the violence itself. How normal it becomes again. Years earlier, killing felt like responsibility. Then it felt like procedure. Now it feels mathematical. Inputs and outcomes. Risk calculations. Necessary removals. You realize one night inside a Belgrade safe house that you no longer remember the faces of half the people you eliminated professionally. Only the methods. That realization sits inside you like poison afterward. Then Mercer makes a mistake. An investigative reporter in London publishes partial documents tied to covert assassination authorization stretching back nearly 20 years. Most are too heavily redacted to prove anything legally. Except one. An authorization signature bearing Mercer's biometric encryption key connected directly to an operation targeting an American senator during a trade negotiation dispute. The government begins fracturing internally almost immediately. Oversight committees launch investigations. Intelligence directors resign. Foreign allies demand explanations quietly through diplomatic channels. And Mercer disappears. No resignation. No public statement. Just gone. You know what that means instantly. She activated contingency protocols. People like Mercer never vanish unless they are preparing something catastrophic. You track her through old operational habits. Financial dead drops. Aviation routing patterns. Communications silence intervals. Eventually the trail leads beneath Northern Virginia to a continuity bunker converted decades earlier into a classified emergency coordination site. You infiltrate alone because bringing anyone else would create variables you cannot control. The bunker sits 300 feet underground protected by biometric checkpoints and autonomous defense systems tied into Cold War infrastructure nobody officially decommissioned. You move through maintenance corridors using outdated contractor credentials preserved from operations years earlier. The deeper you go, the more unsettling the facility becomes. Servers processing active surveillance feeds from multiple cities. Operational maps. Target profiles. Entire assassination programs still functioning despite public investigations above ground. The machine never stopped. It adapted. You find Mercer inside a central command room surrounded by live intelligence screens glowing blue against concrete walls. She does not look surprised to see you. I wondered how long it would take, she says calmly. You built all this. No, Mercer replies. People like you built it for us. That lands harder than anger because part of you knows she is right. You murdered civilians. We preserved stability. You turned assassination into policy. We turned chaos into management. You study the screen surrounding her. Active surveillance. Financial panic models. Political risk assessments. Human beings reduced into behavioral probabilities flowing endlessly through algorithms. You think this protects democracy? Mercer almost smiles. I think democracy is far too fragile to survive reality without people like us. Then alarms begin flashing across the bunker simultaneously. Unauthorized breach detected. Multiple entry points. Mercer's expression changes for the first time. Not fear. Recognition. You weren't the only one following the trail, she says quietly. Armed teams flood the outer corridors seconds later. Not government operators this time. Private military contractors. Foreign intelligence proxies. Rival factions created by years of fragmented covert programs now collapsing into open conflict over control of the network Mercer built. The shadow war finally reaches the surface. Gunfire echoes through concrete corridors while emergency lights flood the bunker red. Surveillance feeds begin failing one by one. Entire governments probably unraveling above ground already while buried systems continue processing targets automatically beneath them. Mercer opens a secure archive beside the command terminal. Thousands of names appear. Politicians. Journalists. Activists. Foreign officials. American citizens. Future target packages already approved by algorithms designed to predict instability before crimes even happen. Preemptive elimination. Industrialized assassination. You realize suddenly the program no longer needs people like Mercer to continue. It became self-sustaining years ago. You can still shut it down, you say. Mercer looks at the screens quietly. Then toward the gunfire moving closer through the corridors. No, she replies softly. Now it survives everyone. The bunker shakes violently from another explosion somewhere deeper underground. Emergency systems activate automatically. Backup servers begin transferring classified archives offshore through encrypted satellite bursts. The machine protecting itself. You stand there holding a weapon while the woman who built your career watches entire governments destabilize around her in real time. Outside the bunker, nations will blame terrorists, cyber attacks, extremists, foreign interference. They will never admit the truth. That the most dangerous weapon governments ever created was not violence itself. It was the belief that enough secret violence could permanently control the world. Then your watch vibrates once. Priority red. New authorization request incoming. Target status, active. The name attached to the file is yours.